Good evening from Oakville, everyone. It's Anifa Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, I'd like to talk to you about another vasana. And again, these are a series of vasanas that I'm talking about in this section, in this particular series, to let you know about the things that often hold back mankind, or we'll say each individual. And when we look at these vasanas or tendencies, this vasana that I'd like to talk to you about today is called a Bhoga Vasana. Bhoga is a Sanskrit term meaning indulgence, enjoyment, consumption, experience, and sensual pleasure. Now, all of these things can be very enjoyable, as we can imagine, for many people. Now, the concern happens when it turns into a vasana. It's when the mind is endlessly pursuing these things, endlessly pursuing. And what would be not good about this? I mean, we could call that, if we were to term it, a psychological term, is hedonistic. And then someone would say, well, what's wrong with that? If you could afford everything that you ever wanted and you started having all the pleasures that you want, what would be so not good about that? In that experience, if we think about the whole yogic philosophy, this yogic philosophy, and I wouldn't say that it's limited to yoga, we know that most spiritual traditions and religions strongly encourage this understanding of who we are. So, who are we? Who are you? And when we're looking at this, we start recognizing, if we go a little bit deeper, that we are beyond what we feel we are in our body and mind. And this is this connection with something higher, something bigger. And again, some people might call this God, some people say the universe, some people just feel it's energy. But when we quiet ourselves enough, we can actually get to that space. And of course, this is why I encourage meditation so regularly. So meditation is one way of getting there. Some people will get there through prayer. Some people will get there through connecting with nature in general. But it does require silencing the mind a bit. So in that, if it is being in nature and just being in awe of the beauty around you, that's one way to do it. And what happens is a lot of people get caught up in this Bhoga Vasana. Now in yogic philosophy, I wanted to share with you, Bhoga is a term that's used several ways, and some see Bhoga as the enjoyment of earthly pleasure that prevents self-realization. So self meaning the higher self. And if we are preventing that, this would make sense, right? So if we are all so caught up in, I gotta get this, I gotta do that for my enjoyment and my satisfaction and my pleasure. And you might think that this sounds strangely familiar if you've been watching my videos. And you might think that this sounds a little bit like Lokavasana, where there is this pursuit of desires too. And the difference between these two is that in Lokavasana, there's the forgetting of the world of duality that we're living in. So whatever is good today will not necessarily be good tomorrow. And people forget that. So when something is really good, they think that's going to last forever. And something is really not good, they think that will last forever. And that's that Lokavasana. Bhogavasana is enjoying senses so much that one feels that would last forever. And enjoying this beyond the space of recognizing who we really are, of something beyond this body and mind. And so I found a couple of great quotations to kind of share with you and perhaps help you understand this a little bit better. The first one is by Sri Ravi Shankar, and it says, when mind controls man, it's Bhoga, which is bondage. But when man controls mind, it's yoga. And yoga is union. And this union is with that higher energy. And this is, of course, something that I find very exciting. And certainly, I believe yogics everywhere would understand this experience. And certainly, people who are really on a spiritual journey would also likely understand this, or perhaps are trying to get to this space or hoping to realize this space. And this idea, again, not so much as a goal to reach, but certainly as a journey of our lives, is a very central theme in I'll say Vedic scripture, but in a lot of religions and spirituality. So today I wanted to remind you about that. And then one other thing that I wanted to finish with is on this same note. We think about any pleasures or enjoyment. We think about it also creates karma. So remember, any action that we do creates karma. And karma, of course, in this moment, it seems like, oh, when I plan to do this and I have so much fun with it, it's so exciting. And whichever thing is so exciting to one, we might forget that there is a karma being created in that time too. So if you're having so much fun at the expense of someone, that's not so good. It's creating a karma. And if you're having so much fun, that's not including someone, that's creating karma too. And this is, again, you would know your own intentions behind this. But when someone is very much in a space of Bhoga, this Bhoga Vasana really doesn't care about anyone else or anything else or consequences, really cares about just that moment and their satisfaction. And this is so important for us to understand because even that moment of pleasure, sensual pleasure, could be anything, could be something that you're smelling, something that you're tasting and eating, something that you're doing sexually or sensually, anything that you might be doing. And this includes thought, word, and action. So this is a really big one because a lot of people would love to get lost in Bhoga, and many people do if they can. And this space does not allow this silence that is so important in yogic philosophy and certainly important in most spirituality, as I'm saying. And so this quotation is by Sri Ramana Maharshi, and it says, pain or pleasure is the result of past karma and not of the present karma. Pain or pleasure is the result of past karma and not the present karma. So, not of the present karma. So, realizing again, understanding, I shouldn't use the word realizing in this video, but if I say understanding, this is understanding that some past karma, and not necessarily in this life, that someone might say that, well, I've worked so hard that I've earned this much money that I can do now whatever I want. And this is at the cost of hurting others, and I don't really care. So they can be in that space. And they'd say, because in this life, I've worked this hard. And this is true. Your past karma has led up to this space. And of course, I believe in several lives potentially, but each day being a life, yes, we have built up to a certain space that we might be able to have the enjoyments of pleasure. And certainly, I'm not encouraging or implying that anyone should not have pleasure and enjoyment. It's when we get so lost that we do not realize the consequences to others. And where it's so important for ourselves to have our pleasure, that it's karma that we're creating in this moment. And when we're consciously doing this, of I'm doing this because I want to show someone this, or I want to get back at someone, or I want to show revenge, or I'm going to show how happy I am, because I know it'll just bug that person. And people do this consciously and unconsciously. And this creates the karma today. And this created karma today will be felt in some future moment. So today I'd like to leave you with that idea, that thought, and not with a sad note. I want you to know that enjoy. If you're in a space that you can enjoy something, enjoy. At the same time, see who is being affected, who is being hurt, directly or indirectly, who is perhaps not receiving these sorts of benefits, and how are you thinking about those people? Because a lot of people in this space will say, well, it's because they're not working, they're not doing hard enough work, that's why they can't enjoy what I am enjoying. All of these things, these judgments, these criticisms of others, and this pride in oneself is a great way to build the ego in a way that's not so good. So I leave you with that thought, and I hope you remember that you can have enjoyments in moderation. Everything in moderation, everyone. I wish you a fantastic evening, and I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great night, everyone.